So let's see our use fetch hook in action. Okay. So we are calling a public API, which is JSONPlaceholder dummy API, to get some blog post. And look here, when I refresh the page, loading first and then boom, posts are fetched and shown as a list. So this is all without writing use effect or fetch again. Clean, reusable, fast. Hey nerds, welcome to episode 3 of our must-have custom hooks for React series. In last episode, we have created use infinite custom hook. If you have missed it, go watch that first. So today we are building the most used hook in every React project, which is useEffect, to make API call cleaner, faster and reusable. But before creating, let's discuss why we need that hook in our project. So instead of writing the useEffect, fetch, loading state again and again for each and every call throughout in our application, we will abstract it into a hook that you can reuse in just one line like this. Okay. So now let's dive into the coding part. So let me create a file for which we'll exporting our custom hook. So let me rename it as a useFetch.jsx. Now, to create this custom hook, we import the built-in hooks, use state to store our data and use effect to trigger the fetch. So let me do that. So import use state, use effect. These two hooks I'll be using. Okay. Now let's create our custom hook, and this custom hook use fetch accept a URL as a string, the end point from which we have to fetch the data. Okay. So let me export const use fetch. It will accept URL which we'll be using to fetch our data. Okay. So let me do the error syntax here. Now we have to manage three pieces of state: data, loading and error. So let me create the three states. First one will be data with its setter function set data and use state type while keep is null. It will be used to fetch and store the result. Okay. And then I'll create one more loading state, set loading. It will be type of boolean. By default, I'll make it true. It will be used to show if the fetch is in progress or not. Based on it, we'll show the loader on the UI. Okay. Now the third state is error. Error, set error. Okay. Use state null. So it will be used to capture any error during the fetch. Now let's write the use effect, where we'll be writing a logic for API call, and use effect runs the fetch logic when the component mounts or when URL gets changed. Then we have to make the API calls. So let's write that. So use effect and in dependency array, let me do this. In dependency array, let's pass URL. So whenever this URL will get changed, this use effect will run. Okay. So now let's come inside the use effect. So let's create one variable which is mounted, and by default let's keep it true. So this flag prevents updating state if the component is unmounted during fetch. Okay. Now let me create or reset basically the loading and error state. So for that, let loading make it true and set error, make it null. So here we are resetting the loading and clearing any previous error before making a request. Okay. So now let's make the actual request. So for that we'll be using the fetch API. So fetch API basically takes the URL from where we have to fetch the data. Okay. And it returns us the promise. So for that, let's make it then statement, and here it will return us the response. So I have to check if response is not okay, then I need to throw the error to the UI. Okay. So if response dot okay is not, then I need to throw new error. I'll make it as a fetch failed. And if it is okay, means that if there is response is correct, then I need to convert it in the JSON. So response dot JSON. Okay. Now let me write one more then statement. So whatever the data I'm getting from here, okay, which is returning the JSON, I need to set that data into our data state. Okay. So let me write it down. So if, but before that, I need to check if the mount is still true, means this component is still in the mounting state. Okay. So then only I need to set the data. So if is mounted is still true, then set data, make it whatever the data we are getting here, I can set it in the data state. Then I need to catch any error if there is any in during our fetch process. So for that I need to write a catch statement. It will return me error. Okay. Then if is mounted is still true, I have to set that error message into our error state. So error dot message. So whatever the error I'll getting, it will have a message property, and that message property I'll set into this our error state so that I can show it on the UI if I need it. And when everything is done, finally I need to reset the loading state. Okay. So when everything is done and if it's still mounted, okay, then I have to make loading false, means I need to stop the loader on the UI. Okay. But one more thing here I need to write a cleanup function. So how we can write a cleanup function in useEffect? We have to write into the return statement. So return. So this will be our cleanup function. So what we need to do in the cleanup function? We have to make this flag is mounted false, means whenever this means useFetch will be unmounted, then this return function as a cleanup function will run and it will make is mounted false. So is mounted false. So that is our useEffect. Okay. Now at last our hook returns all three states we have created. So they can be used in any component. So let me return those. So return data, loading and error. So this is our useFetch custom hook. Now let me reuse these in our app.js. Okay. So let's come into the app.js and let me comment the old code which we have created in episode 2. Yes, now we are ready to go. So let's use our useFetch. So for that it is returning three things. One is data, and other is loading, and other is error. So let me get these three from our useFetch. So data, loading, error, and useFetch from useFetch.jsx. And it is taking a API URL as a parameter. So what we can use? We can use our JSON placeholder dummy APIs. Okay, so let me come here, and here these are mocked APIs which you can use in your application. Okay, so let me use this post one. Okay, so here I'll pass this API endpoint. Now, if loading is true, then I need to show a loader, or for now what I'll do, I'll just showing a text as a loading. Okay, and if there is any error, then I need to show it on the UI. So for that I'll use p error, whatever the error I'm getting, I'll be showing here. Okay, so if there is loading, it will show the loading. If there is error, it will show the error. And if there is everything is fine, then I'll be showing the data in this return statement. So for that, let me return a UL. Okay, so it will have data dot map, because it will get as a array, and then post. So it will return an li list item. Okay, which will show the post dot title. Let me add a key here as a post dot id. So this is my return statement. So we are done. Now let's see how it is working on the UI. So here you can see it is loading, and then at last it is showing us the result. And if I inspect it and let me refresh it again, you can see it is showing calling the API post and showing us the result in the list format. So yeah, we're done. No more copy pasting fetch logic, just plug and play. Use fetch wherever you need. Thanks. That's all for today. If you learned something, hit like. If you smiled, hit subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay nerdy. The Nerd Spite signing off.